Shalom Akim, Kal Halayim, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakudash. That belongs to the apostles, the elders of Great Mills do not rule well. Peace and salutation to the Akim around the world that push this truth to the four corners of the earth, right? In sincerity. I say I'll touch on the Halloween history, seeing that today's the satanic Halloween day that they follow. I'll be mindful about how I name it though, because YouTube YouTube like to penalize people's videos for bringing out truthful things that they don't want people to find out, right? But the Halloween tradition goes back to a tradition called Samha. I believe that's how it's pronounced it, right? It's an ancient satanic practice, right? When you really look right into more or less all the so-called holidays, have a reason why they call it holidays and not holy days, because holy days is what the Lord set up for us to follow, and they were made good, right? But holidays is like the satanic version of holy days. It's like the opposite. You understand? Now you see majority of these holidays that people celebrate today, it stems from some kind of satanic practice that does just make small changes to get people to follow it. But really and truly, when you take part in these satanic practices, you actually taking part of the spiritual aspect behind it, which is satanic worship. Even though some people might take it lightly, it's actually something very serious. Right? It's a Samha, if that's how you pronounce it, like I say, is a pagan a pagan religious festival, right? So all of these things is be religious in some way, right? And we know when we follow the religious festivals of the Lord, it has a deep spiritual meaning behind it. Same way when you follow religious heathen festivals, it has deep spiritual meanings behind it. Like you'll see people that had a children dressing up in those clothes for Diwali, and they don't sit down to think that the reason why the original people do these things is because that is a ritualistic gown that they just wear to actually take part in the worship of their gods. So if you have your child dressing up like that and taking part in that festival, obviously you would have them taking part in the worship of their gods also, and that is against the Lord. You understand me? You're not supposed to serve idol gods or any god other than the one true power, through his son. You understand? But this is how they just get people to follow their practices, by trying to make it look like something fun or something enjoyable, right? It's from a ancient Celtic spiritual tradition, right? In modern times, it's a Samha, a Gaelic, right, word pronounced Sowin, is usually celebrated from August 31st to November 1st to welcome in the harvest and usher in the dark half of the year. You understand? Cause I believe that is when it coming into the solstice, the winter solstice, which is like the time of death. You understand? Which is winter time, when nothing doesn't really grow, nothing. You understand? There's worship that is a time of death, and that is actually a very important time frame for Satanists. You understand? That way you get a New Year's celebration from. When the worshiping the birth and the time of New Year's, that they have people celebrating, telling them that it's New Year's, but really and truly New Year's is starting spring. But they just tell people that to get them to follow it. Why? Because they know on that particular day that they class as New Year's is a particular day spiritually for Satanists, that they just worship one of their gods. I believe the name of the god is called Janus, which is the god of beginnings and ends. You understand? That's also where they get the word January from. They name it after him, Janus. And there's worship, and they celebrate the last day in December to the first day in January to celebrate that particular thing. All these things just have reasons, and have a reason why they just get you to celebrate it also, because they know what they're doing is off, and when they get you to celebrate it, in the eyes of the Lord, you will be off also. It says celebrants believe that the barriers between the physical world and the spiritual world break down during Samha, allowing more interaction between humans and denizens of the underworld. And that is why for Halloween, yeah, they see all kind of thing with spirits and all kind of cartoons like that. It even have a child show called Halloween Town, where you see this girl, she get to learn that she when she ancestor was a witch and she's also a witch, and they're trying to make being a witch look like something good. You understand? But it's not. It's something satanic, and nothing satanic is good. Right? It's the ancient Samha. Ancient Celts mark Samha, right? Samai, wherever it is. You'll know I can't pronounce it. You'll see in the word. Right? As the most significant of the 4 quarterly fire festivals, right? Taking place at the midpoint between the fall equinox and the winter solstice, right? So it's that period between one to the next that Satanists does, consider something special. It said during this time of year, hearth, right, fires, and this hearth goes back to like I think it's like a fireplace, like you have a fireplace in your house. Fires in families' homes were left to burn out while the harvest was gathering. So this was a part of the tradition, right? You see, after the harvest work was complete, celebrants joined with druid priests to light a community fire using a wheel that would cause friction and spark flames. Now you see how it said that they used to have particular priests, because even the shiny scriptures back then, it had priests of Baal and all these other heathen gods. It had particular priests who would be like the high ones in that particular region. Even when they go to like occultic things and Satanism, they have priests that is minister in that particular aspect, right? A priest doesn't always be a good thing. In this instant, that these priests are talking about is not good priests, right? There's like Satanistic priests, right? It said a wheel was considered a representation of the sun and used along with prayer. So this was like also a form of sun worship. It said cattle was sacrificed, and participants took a flame from the communal bonfire, like the whatever flame they had around the worship where they was doing, back to their homes to relight the hearth, which is like the fireplace. So they would take one of what they would consider the holy flame that was by the bonfire, and they would come home and light it in their house. You understand? These things this is a ritualistic thing that was done, and it had a meaning to it, right? It wasn't just done randomly, right? Now you go to our scripture. Today, Jeremiah 10, I'll start from 1. It say, hear ye the word which the Lord spake unto you, O house of Israel, right? So this is something that the Lord said. It said, thus saith the Lord, learn not the ways of the heathen. I have a reason why the Lord told you these things. You understand? The Lord gave us things to follow. When we learn the ways of the heathen does not be equal to the ways of the Lord. That does be contrary. And that is when you just be against the Lord. Because if you're not with the Lord, you're against the Lord. You don't have an in-between. If you're doing things that the Lord tell you not to do, then you're against the Lord. You can't be with the Lord. As the scriptures talk about, you say you can't eat at the table of something and of devils, just paraphrasing. You can't have both. You have to pick a side. You have to pick a side, right? It's the early texts present Samain, present Samain as a mandatory celebration lasting 3 days and 3 nights, where the community was required to show themselves to local kings or chief or I think it's chieftains. Chieftains, I believe the word is. Yeah, chieftain. Let me see.
Chieftain.
Yeah, chieftain. It's a chief, especially of a band, tribe, or clan. So this was like the heads, I guess, right? So this was like the heads. They was supposed to show themselves to the heads. Right? Right, chieftains. It's a failure to participate was believed to result in punishment for from the gods. You see, gods. So we already know what they're working with. Not the one true God. Gods. Usually illness or death. It said there was also a military aspect to Samain in Ireland, with holiday thrones prepared for commanders and soldiers. Anyone who committed a crime or used their weapons during the celebration faced a death sentence. Now you see, it's showing you that this is a real heavy satanistic practice. You understand? But let me continue. It says some documents mention six days of drinking alcohol to excess, and typically mead or beer, along with gluttonous feasts. So this was like the a satanic feast day. And you see how they talk about they used to sacrifice animals, but we know that human sacrificing is a big thing for Halloween. They just didn't state it in the document. But human sacrifices is a big thing for Halloween. That way you see around Halloween time a lot of people just go missing. Alright. Say because the Celts believed that the barrier between worlds was breachable during Samhain, it said they prepared offerings that were left outside villages and fields for fairies and Sids, right? It say it was expected that ancestors might cross over during this time as well, and Celts would dress as animals and monsters so that fairies were not tempted to kidnap them. And that is a part of where the origination come from, with children just dress up as ghosts and all these different things for the practice of Halloween. They used to do this because it was a satanistic practice, but now they have you letting your children do it, trying to pass it off as something fun. You understand? That's how crafty people in society is. They will have you following something satanic, and because you thinking that it's something fun or enjoyable, you will go along with it, not knowing where it actually originated from, or not knowing what it is you're actually doing or what it really means. You understand? But that's the reason why they used to do these things. So some specific monsters were associated with mythology surrounding Samhain, right? Including a shape-shifting creature called a puka that receives harvest offerings from the field. It said the lady Gwain is a headless woman dressed in white who chases night wanderers and was accompanied by a black pig. I remember seeing an image of a woman like that in a movie once. It said that the Dulaha, right, sometimes appeared as impish creatures, right? Sometimes headless men on horses who carried their heads. Everybody will know the story of what the headless horseman who had the pumpkin head. These where he originally came from. One of the monsters that they used to worship, that they believe used to come back during this period in time. And a lot of people don't even know that. That way a lot of these ghouls and these movies will be bringing it out in. It originated from these things, right? They say right on horses who carried their heads. It say riding flame-eyed horses. Their appearance was a death omen to anyone who encountered them. It say a group of hunters known as the fiery hosts. I think it's fiery hosts, I believe. Might also hunt Samayan and kidnap people, right? People went missing. That was probably just a folklore that they create. So when they was kidnapping people for the sacrifices, you know, they would have a justification. It wasn't somebody, it was a spirit. It's a similar the slug who would come from the west to enter houses and steal souls. Right? I'm gonna read the entire document. I'll post it in the description. So if a person wanna go through the entire thing, they could, right? But there's just little touches showing you on these festivals that these Satanists just have people following. Even when you go back to Christmas, which go back to the winter solstice, which originally was a homosexual feast day that men used to be popping each other and all these kind of wickedness. They just make little changes to these things in these modern days and tell people, hey, it's something family and you know, it's get together and spirit of cheer, and people will eat that like rice and corned beef. You understand? They'll eat that like pizza and chicken. And they wouldn't try to figure out if it's really correct, if it's right or wrong. People just don't have time to think about that. It looks like fun. Let's do it. Let's do it. It looks like fun. I saw that is people level of thinking. Alright, Deuteronomy 18, right? I'll start from 9. Deuteronomy 18 from 9. It say, when thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, right? Thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations, right? And the scripture talk to you about abominations, right? It said, thou shalt not learn to do after the ways of the abomination of those nations. So these things that the other nations as do are contrary to the Lord, against the Lord, and they are classed as an abomination. Let me see what the Lord says about abominations. I think that is Sirach. I think it's 15, 13, somewhere around there. Maybe it's 13, 15. I'm not seeing it. Must be find it. Salakia. I haven't used that scripture in a while. We're good. I should have been a little more detailed. But I know it's to the end. It's 15:13. I didn't just went on now. Salakia. Right? Ecclesiasticus, the book of Sirach, right in the Apocrypha, chapter 15, verse 13. It said, the Lord hated all abomination, and they that fear the Most High love it not. So it said, if the Lord say that these practices are an abomination, and the scriptures say that the Lord hate all abomination, right? The Lord hate all abomination. It say, and they that fear him, if you really fear the Lord, they love it not. So they wouldn't practice these things, because they know there's something that the Lord really don't like. And you don't want to do something the Lord don't like. He'll jack you up. He's a very serious man. Right? Right? So you talk about the do after the, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations, right? Let me see. Let me give you some examples of what you mean. Right? It said, there shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire. Right? Which goes back to like sacrificing your children. Or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch. Right? So witches are an abomination. It are nothing like You know, I's a good witch like Charmed or Sabrina the Teen. All witches are an abomination to the Lord. You understand? All witches are an abomination to the Lord. It have no good witch and no bad witch. That kind of Harry Potter nonsense is try to teach people that, oh, it have good witches that is used the powers for good. And no. All of those things are an abomination, and that is a practice of the other nations. That is not a practice of his people. Right? It say, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits. Right? Or a wizard, or a necromancer. Let me look at the word necromancer. You know, if a person were to look through all the words, all the different definitions of what things I just called out, but I'll go through necromancer. It's the practice of talking to the spirits of dead people. Like how you will see, like some people go have a dead ancestor and they'll go to somebody to call them up and ask them, you know, well, which part you did put the keys, I can't find it. Or I know you had some money hide away. You know, tell me which part it is. You understand? That is actually their wicked practice. And the person that called up that spirit doing wickedness, and the person that went to that person to call up the spirit also doing wickedness, because you taking part in that nonsense. You understand? These things are a serious thing to the Lord. It said the use of magic powers, especially for evil purposes. Now, it didn't say only for evil purposes. It said especially for evil purposes. If you're using them kind of practices to try to do good things, like they say they have a good Obia man that he's only use his Obia powers for good things, you're still doing Obia. The Lord is still classing you as an abomination, and you're still going to be destroyed for doing it. It have nothing like a good warlock or a good witch. It doesn't have those things, right? Let's say verse 12, it say, for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord, and because of these abominations the Lord thy God had drove them out from before thee. The Lord don't deal with people like that. You understand? The Lord don't deal with stuff like that. So people that they delight in taking part in these things, they don't understand how much it is against the Lord. And the Lord, let me just say, the Lord don't like people being against him. You understand? That is where destruction does come. Because the same way he drove those other nations from before us, because they was doing it. For all people who take part in it and do these same things, they will be driven out also. They will be destroyed. Because these are not the things of the Lord. You understand? It have many feast days, many actual holy days in the scriptures that the Lord did actually give us to follow. And our people is follow not one, but all the practices that they were taught in this society, the practices of the heathen, that is what they does cling to, and that is what they does follow. You understand? That's why these scriptures is supposed to be what your guide to know what you could do and what you can't do, and what you're not supposed to do. But a lot of people you will teach these things to and they wouldn't listen. Why? Because the scriptures say, the Lord says people are rebellious and hard-headed, or stiff-necked was the word he used. You understand? He said a stiff-necked. I think that is Ezekiel 2. Ezekiel 2, I'll start from 1, right? Ezekiel 2 from 1. It say, and he said unto me, Son of man, stand up upon thy feet, right? And I will speak unto thee. And the Spirit entered into me when he spake unto me, and set me upon my feet. And I heard him that spake unto me. And he said unto me, Son of man, I send thee to the children of Israel, to a rebellious nation that had rebelled against me. You understand? It say, they and their fathers have transgressed against me, because they keep going against the Lord. Against the things the Lord tell them to do, they don't want to do that. But all the things that the heathens do, they want to practice that, or they want to do their own thing. You understand? It say, even unto this very day. For they are impudent children. That's what the Lord referred to his people as impudent children. And stiff-hearted, hardened, hardened people. It have no other people in this world more hardened than Jake's. I don't feel so. Hardened. The Lord's people are hardened. No matter how much you talk to them, they will always be hearing what you're saying and still do what they want to do. They're hardened. It could be how smart or make how much sense, that they'll just do what they want to do because they're hardened, stiff-hearted. You say, I do send thee unto them, and thou shalt say unto them, thus saith the Lord power. You say, and they, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, for they are a rebellious house, yet shall know that there had been a prophet among them. And that's why we just teach people these things. Whether they listen or they don't listen, we have to teach them. If they don't want to hear and they ignore it, they have their penalty to receive. But at the end of the day, they could never say that they wasn't told. Right? So this whole history going through, the Halloween traditions and all the other traditions that this society does follow, and they don't even know where it come from or what they mean. But hope it was edifying to someone. With that, I say shalom.